Hey, Wire Monkeys, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Cabling. Today, we're diving into a topic that's absolutely crucial for the safety in the ICT industry: fire stopping. Welcome to the show where we tackle the tough questions submitted by installers, technicians, foremen, project managers, estimators, even customers. We are connecting at the human level so that we can connect the world. If you're watching this show on YouTube, would you mind hitting the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified when new content is being produced? If you're listening on one of the audio podcast platforms, would you mind leaving us a 5-star rating? Those simple little steps help us take on the algorithm so we can educate, encourage, and enrich the lives of people in the ICT industry. Wednesday nights, 6 p.m. Wednesday night, 6 p.m. I do live stream on TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, where you get to ask your favorite RCDD, and you know that's me, your questions on installation, certification, design, estimation, project management. I even do career path questions. But I can hear you now. But Chuck, I'm driving on Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. I don't want to crash my truck. Okay. I record them, and you can watch them at your convenience. And finally, while this show is free and will always remain free, if you find value in this content and you would like to support this show, please look us up on Patreon. Please go to the webpage and go to our Amazon link page, or maybe even sponsor a show or an episode, or do an advertisement. So specifically, we're going to explore the world of intumescent and non-mechanical firestop materials. You see, there's two types of firestop systems: mechanical and non-mechanical. Non-mechanical are the ones that you have to assemble them in order for them to work. You got to put in the sleeve. You got to put the cables through the sleeve. You got to pack it with mineral wool. Then you got to pack it with some type of putty, caulk, or other type of material. You have to assemble it. So we're talking about the non-mechanical types tonight. Now, I know this sounds kind of technical, but trust me, there's something tonight's show for every professional in our field needs to understand. So let's start off with intumescent firestop materials. Imagine this. Your cables are running through a building, doing their job, transporting ones and zeros from one end of the cable to the other end of the cable. What happens if a fire breaks out? When the cable jacket burns, the conductors start to collapse and the jacket starts to burn off. And the size that was once a tightly packed cable bundle begins to shrink. And this is where intumescent firestop materials come into play. These materials are designed to expand when exposed to heat, filling that space left behind those shrinking cables. It's pretty amazing when you think about it that these firestop materials are not just filling the gaps, but they're also actively preventing fire and heat from spreading through those other spaces in that building. But here's the key takeaway. It's not enough to just throw some firestop material in there and call it a day. Intumescent firestopping needs to be installed with some sort of structural containment. And why? Because without it, that expanding material can't properly compress the cable bundle, and that could lead to gaps. And guess what goes through those gaps? Smoke, fire, heat, toxic off gases. So always make sure that your installation is up to code and with proper containment. As I mentioned, with the firestop materials for intumescent systems, they come in a different bunch of varieties. A lot of times they come with the kits. So let's talk about those non-mechanical systems. They're different from the mechanicals. Generally, the materials that you use for non-mechanical systems are going to be more pliable. They're going to be made of materials like putties, caulks, blankets, pads, foams, even pillows. Not the kind of pillow that you're going to fall asleep on at night. These materials can be molded or shaped into any kind of opening to seal it off effectively. That's why they're called irregular openings. Now, non-mechanical firestop systems are designed with three basic properties in mind: intumescent, endothermic, and ablative. But before we talk about those, we got to talk about the ways that fire spreads throughout a building. It can spread through conduction, convection, or radiation. And those intumescent, ablative, and endothermic firestop materials is directly designed to attack one of those three components. By the way, this is a good spot for me to stop for a second and tell you, if you haven't taken a fire stopping class, do so. Most of the fire stop companies will come out to your office and conduct them for free. And some of them are really good fire stop programs. STI has some good fire stop training. Hilti has some good fire stop training. Unique Fire Stop Systems has some good fire stop training. The key is learn, because you don't just throw putty into a hole and call it the day. Because a true fire stop system is a listed product, which means it has been tested by an NRTL, a nationally recognized testing laboratory, and they actually burned them for the ratings. So if they have a 2-hour rated system, it's designed to fit in a 2-hour rated wall. If you just started assembling stuff together in the field that you're not following some type of a UL drawing, it's not a listed system.
Hey there, business owners and tech enthusiasts. Are you tired of dealing with outdated technology and unreliable IT support? Introducing Better Days Technology, Rhode Island's premier IT solution provider. Whether you need secure network setups, top-notch cybersecurity, or seamless software integrations, Better Days Technology has got you covered. Don't let tech troubles hold you back. Visit betterdaystechnology.com or call 401-440-5483 today. One call to us and you'll be having better days. Now, let's get back to the podcast.
So, conduction. Conduction is when, I want you to think about this. There's a room. Inside, the contents of that room are on fire. There's a conduit that runs through that room into an adjacent room. The fire is going to heat up the conduit, and the heat will spread to the other room. That's called conduction. And if it gets hot enough, it could ignite materials in the adjacent room. Convection. Convection is heat rising. So if you think of a building catching on fire on, say, the second floor, all that heat's going to rise up to the third floor, unless there's something to stop it. So let's talk about the 3 types of fire stop materials that are used in non-mechanical systems to help combat this spread of fire and smoke and toxic off gases. First, intumescent. This property allows the material to expand when it's exposed to heat. So as that bundle of cables is getting smaller because the products of combustion are consuming the cable jacket, the dielectric, the crossweb separator, maybe even the copper conductor themselves, that bundle is going to get smaller. And because of the intumescent material, because of the intumescent properties of the fire stop material, that material is going to swell and create a tight seal. Sometimes it's even designed to crush the penetration, especially with combustible conduits. The cold smoke seal, for those who don't know, is that bead of putty or caulk that you put around outside of the conduit, because you had to cut a hole in the wall to put the conduit through first. Well, you can never cut it to the exact same size. You have to cut it a little bit bigger. That leaves a gap. That bead of caulk or putty that you put in that gap is called the cold smoke seal, because smoke will get to that fire stop system long before the heat from the flame will get there. So next we have endothermic properties. Endothermic properties means that material absorbs the heat. And this is crucial because it helps prevent the temperature from rising on the other side of the barrier. Remember, we just talked about conduction. Essentially, it's going to buy the occupants of the building and the fire department more time. Precious minutes that could be the difference between a small incident or a major disaster where people are getting hurt. And finally, ablative materials. Ablative materials develop a hard char when exposed to fire. There used to be a July 4th, there used to be this one firework thing that you'd buy. I think it was called a snake or something. You would light it and it would literally kind of expand out. That was made out of ablative materials. So why do we want this thing developing a hard char? The char is key because it resists erosion from fire, flames, and helps maintain the integrity of that fire stop system. The ablative property allows the fire stop to become rigid, which is important because it needs to withstand the high pressure gases. Think about that. When something catches on fire, heat causes stuff to expand. And also it's going to help resist the force from the hose stream from the firefighters. So now let's talk about the forms that these intumescent materials can take place. You have sheets, you have pads, you have wrap strips, you have putties, caulk, material, and pillows, all with their own specific uses and benefits. How do you know which one to use? When do you use the right one? Intumescent sheets, for example, often have a sheet metal backing, and that can be used to seal large openings. If you're dealing with cable conduit or piping, these sheets can be layered over and spaced accordingly to the manufacturer's instructions to create a strong, fire-resistant seal. Remember, always follow the FireStop manufacturer's instructions. Pads are another great option, especially when you're dealing with electrical fixtures or outlet boxes. These FireStop putties seal knockouts and openings, preventing the smoke and the fire from getting into the hollow cavity in the wall.
Hold that thought. Let's listen to a short message from our sponsor. Don't go anywhere. Bessemer Industries is your trusted partner in cutting-edge telecommunications and security solutions in Central California. From structured cabling and fiber optics to comprehensive telecom and surveillance systems, we've got you covered. Enhance your business with seamless connectivity and top-notch security. Our licensed and insured team ensures that you get the best service tailored to your needs. Why choose Bessemer Industries? Expertly crafted solutions, reliable and secure installations, licensed and insured professionals. Don't wait. Connect with us today and elevate your business to new heights. Bessemer Industries, connecting and securing Central California's businesses one wire at a time. Visit us at www.bessemerindustries.com or call 559-314-7050. Bessemer Industries, your link to seamless connectivity. Now, let's get back to the show.
Then there are wire strips, which are typically used for fire-stopping plastic piping. Think about interducts, insulated metal piping, and cable bundles, you name it. The idea here is the wire strip will expand and seal off any voids left by the materials that might burn away. But probably one of the most common things that gets used in non-mechanical FireStop systems is going to be putty. It's versatile, it's easy to install, and it has a long shelf life. And most FireStop putties are endothermic, again, meaning it absorbs the heat. And they also remain pliable even when exposed to high temperatures. And that's going to make them really good for applications where you might need to re-enter the FireStop system down the line. If your FireStop system is not filled to its complete FireStop fill ratio, and you can still put more cables, then putty is going to be your better choice because you can easily remove the putty, put more cables in, and then put the putty back into it. And then there's caulk. FireStop caulks come in various forms. They can be intumescent, they can be endothermic, they can even be ablative, you name it. They're typically used for permanent installations. Permanent installations. So using that example that I gave you just a little bit ago where I was talking about fill ratios, if you're at the maximum fill ratio for your listed FireStop system, then caulk might be a better choice there. Because while it is re-enterable, it's a lot harder to get into it. If you're going to break my FireStop system and exceed my fill ratio that I designed and put in there, dude, you better make sure I'm going to make you sweat doing it. So they're really used for permanent installations. And a lot of times you'll see them used for floor penetrations, typically not wall penetrations, because caulk takes some time to cure. And if you got a FireStop penetration going horizontally through a wall, there's a chance that FireStop putty or FireStop caulk might leak out because of gravity. But they do form a tight seal that's resistant to both fire and smoke. And then we have pillows. Again, not your typical bedtime pillows like I talked about earlier. Modern FireStop pillows are specifically treated with some type of a compressible fiber matrix, right? It could be rock wool, it could be a bunch of other stuff that basically swells when it gets exposed to fire. And it becomes rigid to withstand the force of even the hose stream of the firefighters trying to put out that fire. They are particularly useful in situations where you anticipate there's going to be frequent, the key here is frequent, cable changes, or where a live fire watch might otherwise be required. For those who may not know what a live fire watch is, those who do fire alarms and stuff, you know what that means. It means somebody has to sit there all night long to be able to call the fire department in case a fire breaks out. That's called a live fire watch. Just keep in mind that if you're doing the pillows, some of the pillows are going to be requiring you to put in wire mesh on both sides of the wall with metallic anchors. Now, before we wrap up, it's also important to note that each of these FireStop materials has their own specific installation requirements. Whether you're going to be layering the sheets, sealing the caulk, or even placing the pillows and compressing the pillows, always follow the manufacturer's instructions to the letter. And remember, some of these materials are flammable until they're fully cured, so always check first. One more thing I want to point out, silicone foams. If you're going to use silicone foams, make sure that you use a silicone foam from a reputable FireStop manufacturer. I know there's some sold in the big box stores. I've heard of people running into issues with silicone foams bought from the big box stores because when they come out of the can, they're not red in color. A lot of electrical inspectors or authority having jurisdictions are going to be looking for it to be red. And they could fail it just because it is not red. I wasn't going to do this in tonight's show, but let's go and do this. I am of the opinion that if you are designing a FireStop system, if you're installing a FireStop system, if you have to choose between a non-mechanical and a mechanical FireStop system, a mechanical FireStop system is going to be the better way to do it. Mechanical FireStop systems, as I said earlier, they don't need to be assembled. You literally just cut the hole in the wall, put the assembly in the wall, attach it to the wall, put the cold smoke seal on, done. Most mechanical systems have a 100% FireStop fill ratio, meaning you can jam as many cables as you can get through there, and it will still function the way that it's designed to. It'll still be a listed system. Again, the reason I prefer the mechanical over the non-mechanical is with the mechanical system, you don't have to worry about the people coming behind you because it's got a 100% fill ratio. With the non-mechanical system, if your FireStop system is only rated to 40% and you're at 35%, which means you have 5% to grow, if the contractor comes behind you, puts in 20%, they're now exceeding the fill ratio on that system. That could cause some problems. And we all know how fire investigators work. They're going to look, they're going to investigate, and they're going to point the fingers at everybody. I would rather use a system that will be compliant even after I walk off the job site. Oh, here's a pro tip for you. You know, most of the manufacturing instructors will tell you to use a label on the wall, which tells you the date, the time, the UL drawing that was used to install that system. I suggest, and you have no reason not to do this, because almost everybody nowadays has some type of a camera phone. Take a digital picture of every FireStop system on the project you're working on and make that part of the as-built package. That way, it'll protect you if the contractor, like I was just talking about, comes behind you and exceeds that fill ratio. That's your free get-out-of-jail-free card. So I hope you found this deep dive into fire-stopping materials as fascinating as I did. Remember, fire safety is everybody's responsibility. And understanding how these materials that I talked about in tonight's show is a critical part of that. You know, if you have any questions about fire stopping or if you want to share your experiences about fire stopping, please feel free to reach out to me. And also, homework assignment number 2, get some fire stop training. You trust me, it's going to be well worth it. Until next time, knowledge is power.
That's it for this episode of today's podcast. We hope you were able to learn something. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. Also, leave a rating so we can help even more people learn about telecommunications. Until next time, be safe.